Hello YouTube! Scott here, and I am back with another instant review of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. Episode 7 is called The Retreat, and that's basically where the whole thing takes place. Apart from one minor mention early in the episode from Nikki saying that Jen has apparently been nominated for Female Lawyer of the Year, and it's entirely possible that's because she became She-Hulk, the entire thing is focused on one story in particular. So as you may recall at the end of the last episode, Jen met a guy named Josh at a wedding. Well, she dated him a few times, and they hooked up, and he ghosted her. And it was at that point that I was literally thinking to myself, okay, this guy's up to no good. I mean, when you have the last episode ending the way it did with that shot of the guy apparently looking for, a way to get Jen's blood. This guy shows up out of nowhere, he's nice to Jen, they date for a while, and then he disappears. It's totally sus. Anyway, the bulk of the episode is spent at the Abomination's retreat that he built after being paroled. He actually did that. See, the inhibitor that he's forced to wear started malfunctioning, so his parole officer had to go check it out, and he was a little too afraid to go by himself because, the Abomination, so he wanted She-Hulk to go with him. So Jen did. And then through a wacky mishap involving some of Blonsky's guests, I guess, or patients, however you want to put it, Jen's car gets destroyed. So she's forced to stay at the retreat. The entire time she's trying to get a hold of Josh, never mind this is at least 3 days later, and she winds up in one of Blonsky's group therapy sessions. Because, nowhere in the retreat has service except for this one place. Kind of convenient if you think about it. Now, there's just a wacky cast of characters here. You got Man Bull, who literally looks like a Minotaur and was part of a lab accident. Man who calls himself, I honestly can't remember what, but he looks like a matador and everybody thinks he's a matador, but he's not a matador, even though he's dressed like a bullfighter, he's got a sword, he can use it to create bioelectricity. A man named Saracen who believes he's a vampire, but apparently isn't. A guy who calls himself Porcupine, wears a giant porcupine suit that he refuses to take off. And Wrecker. Do you remember Wrecker? Most people don't. He showed up and Jen does her classic fourth wall thing and previously ons the guy himself because he wasn't in the actual previously on. He was one of the guys in the gang that attacked Jen with the Asgardian tools. But that whole thing gets smoothed over, and Jen gets this monologue about, trying to reconcile Jen Walters and She-Hulk being in the same body. And yeah, it resonates because she makes the analogy to, that one friend you had in high school who was, super popular and you wanted so badly to be them. And now it's kind of she's herself and she's her popular friend. And it's how, we saw earlier in the show how there were guys that wanted to date her just because she was She-Hulk and didn't want to hang around when she was Jen. And then she finds this guy who likes her for being Jen, but then he disappeared. And, bit by bit, it's just happening in this basically one day, but the guys in the group convince her to delete Josh's number and just be glad that she's herself, work on her self-esteem. And that's great for her, it really is. She goes and sweats it out in a yurt for a while. I forget why exactly, but she did. And everybody's happy for her. And, she leaves feeling better about herself, which is wonderful. And that's exactly what we want. We want Jen to be comfortable as herself. And also, I suppose, as She-Hulk. But everybody likes her for She-Hulk. More people really need to like Jen for Jen. I mean, she was, this brilliant, successful attorney before any of this happened, on her way to probably becoming assistant DA of Los Angeles. Why wasn't that enough for people, But right at the end, and I'm just going to say here, I called this. like the thing I said earlier about how Josh was up to no good? Yeah, he was up to no good. There's a flashback to 3 days earlier when, Jen brings him home, and while she's asleep, he gets up, clones her phone, and sends a message to the Hulk King saying that he got a sample of her blood. I feel like this is a running thing that we get with like female characters with powers. Maybe not in the MCU, but this kind of seems like a trope where you have women with superpowers or special abilities who are liked because of those abilities, and then they seem to find that one guy or significant other, sorry, who likes them for who they are, and then they turn out to be in on something too, just to get something from them. So, kudos to the monologue from Jen. I'd be lying if I said I never felt that way, and yeah, sometimes I would have liked to have been the cooler friend, but to go into such a predictable ending like that just took me out of the episode. And it would be nice to find out who the Hulk King is, since there are 2 episodes left in this season. Anyway, I mean, that's what I think, and it's actually turning out to be a very short video. So, let me know what you think. Comment below, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll be back again with the next episode next week. But until then, I have been Scott, and this has been an Instant Review, an offshoot of opinions no one cares about. Everyone has opinions. This one was mine.